6 months ago, I put out a video where I ranked every NFL team's best throwback jersey. In that video, I issued a challenge to all of you that when I became a YouTube partner, I would release a follow-up video that would rank the worst uniforms for every NFL team. This is that video because y'all came through. I hit the necessary requirements and I am now officially a YouTube partner. I appreciate every single one of you who have watched my videos and subscribed. If this is your first time here, welcome. It's never too late to join, so go ahead and subscribe now. This is a pretty cool situation for me. Watching a hobby of mine starting to make actual money is wild. And the point is not lost on me that this is all thanks to you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Don't get all gay on me, fatso!
Alright, here is the criteria for this list. I will go through each NFL team, pick one uniform from their history as their ugliest uniform. Then just like the last video, put them in a tier list from least ugliest to most hideous. For the best throwback video, I picked the top 4 to be my Mount Rushmore. For this video, I will keep the top 4 model, but instead of Mount Rushmore, the S tier will be the 4 horsemen of the NFL fashion apocalypse. Before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to the Gridiron Uniform Database. They were a huge resource for this video and they have everything uniform related. You want to see what jersey was worn in a random game from 1994? They have it. Besides being super helpful, it was also very interesting, so go check them out. Let's get started. Arizona Cardinals 1931 home jerseys. We start this list with the oldest franchise in the NFL and the oldest uniform on this list. The 1931 Chicago Cardinal jerseys featured a very odd front numbering that kinda looks like you're getting groped by the Michelin Man. You might be wondering if the away jerseys featured the same numbering. Nope, normal looking 1930s jersey, which just kinda makes the numbering choice even more head scratching. As an honorable mention, I wanted to note the 1994 throwback jersey that they used in the league-wide campaign, but I will talk more on that later. These jerseys aren't ugly, but they're just bizarre. B tier. Atlanta Falcons 1971 red on red. Hey Dustin Lynch, what do you see when you see these jerseys? Yeah, me too. I don't mind the red helmets. The Falcons even brought them back in the 2023 season, but these uniforms are too red. They were introduced in 1971 and they are very 70s. They're like the creamsicle Buccaneers jerseys if you took away all the charm and made them very forgettable. Give it more time, but these gradient jerseys they wore from 2020 to 2022 are aging very, very poorly. And they could take the crown of ugliest Falcons uniform in about 2040. These jerseys aren't ugly, they're just so damn red. C tier. Baltimore Ravens 2015 gold pants. Does it count as a throwback if they only wore the uniform for one game? I say yes, especially if you choose the grossest color pants you could find in the closet. This is the first of many examples of teams who tried to make an accent color a larger part of the uniform. And spoiler, it rarely works and will probably put you on this list. I understand the early days of the NFL, where teams were just trying to get by with what they had, but to make the mustard pants decision in 2015 seems inexcusable. This is the first true off-putting color on this list. A tier. Buffalo Bills 2004 white uniforms. Do you guys remember 2004? Usher and Lil Jon were screaming. Facebook was in its infancy, and Reebok was the exclusive manufacturer of NFL jerseys, which would include a ton of random paneling and lots of piping. The Bills were one of the victims of that mid-2000s Reebok rebrand that plagued a lot of teams. These uniforms are all over the place. 2 different color blues, solid red paneling above striped pants, although I wouldn't hate to see a comeback from that red helmet though. These jerseys were all over the place. Probably the worst jerseys of the mid-2000s. A tier. Carolina Panthers Color Rush Baby Blues. Just like in the best throwback video, the Panthers, along with the Jaguars, are 2 of the newer teams. So they don't have a lot of options for throwback jerseys. Especially the Panthers, who have stayed relatively the same for the past 20 years. The only jersey I don't really like of theirs is the all-teal Color Rushes, even though admittedly it's not even the worst of the color rushes. which was an NFL jersey campaign that was aimed to push the boundaries of NFL fashion, so you can't fault them too much. These jerseys are very teal, but they're not that bad. D tier. Chicago Bears, 1994 Throwbacks. The 1994 Throwback campaign. In theory, a great idea. An idea that I would still like to see implemented for the best throwbacks. But in 1994, the NFL's 75th anniversary, there were a lot of chances taken, and there were a lot of misses. The Bears are a prime example of this. They look like youth soccer jerseys, combined with the weird beige pants. But of all the aspects of this uniform, I think the biggest takeaway is that not all throwbacks, especially the very old ones, translate well to the modern jersey. They didn't work well with the 1994 jerseys, so they are more than likely not going to convert well to the modern, super tight Nike jerseys of today's NFL. I don't think this will make top 4, but it is definitely one of the ugliest in the A tier. Cincinnati Bengals, 1968 Originals. In the best throwback video, I was pretty harsh on these uniforms, saying they were even lazier ripoffs of the basic looking Cleveland Browns jerseys, cementing themselves as the little brother team in Ohio from the start. But a viewer commented telling me the backstory to why they chose the color scheme, how Paul Brown was unceremoniously forced out of the team he started in 1946. A team that was quite literally named after him. So in retaliation, he set up shop with a new franchise across the same state as a giant fuck you to Cleveland. And I love that energy from Paul Brown. And I'm sure he's smiling in his grave watching the ineptitude of the Browns for the last 50 years. Unfortunately, the Bengals jerseys from here on out were all so well done that this is the worst by default. C tier. Cleveland Browns. 2015 Oranges. Speaking of the Browns, they have always had a classic yet boring look to their uniforms. But boring isn't always bad. In 2015, the Browns were looking to change up their look, and the resulting rebrand gave us these. The 2015 rebrand, I think, was the start of the worst trend in NFL uniforms, putting your team or city name in giant font across the chest of the jersey, or in this case, also on the pant leg. I don't know why Nike has done this so many times, but it is awful in my opinion. If you have to remind people whose jersey it is, it's not a good jersey. Stop doing it, Nike. They're not the worst, but I hate that lettering across the chest. B tier. Dallas Cowboys, 1968 Blues. The Dallas Cowboys have always had an iconic look. The star is unmistakable, and the fans that wear that star are broken people who need your love and support in these dark times. But in the late 60s and 70s, before the Cowboys found their navy blue look, they were just plain blue jerseys that could be easily mistaken for a few other teams in the league, like the Colts, Lions, Giants, and the Rams at the time. Establishing a color scheme all your own is definitely advantageous to your brand, especially if you're going to call yourself America's team. Admittedly, they're not that bad. They're just too similar to other teams from that same era. C tier. Denver Broncos, 1960s Yellows. Where do I begin with these? The worst color scheme in NFL history, the vertical striped socks, and I'm sorry, a yellow jersey has never looked good. These were immediately and relentlessly mocked from the very first time they were brought back in 2009. The fact that the AFL rolled these out for the Broncos in the first 2 years of the AFL makes me ashamed the NFL let the AFL merge with them. These are hands down the first of the 4 horsemen of the NFL uniform apocalypse. Detroit Lions, 2005 black uniforms. As we've established, the mid-2000s were a trendy time in NFL fashion. One of these trends was a black jersey for the sake of having a black jersey, even if black isn't a color in your logo or even your color scheme. The Lions black jersey is the biggest offender of the black for black's sake jersey trend. The Lions, as we've known them, have never had black in their uniform until 2003, when they outlined their logo with black. And apparently that was enough justification to unveil the black jersey in 2005. It just seems forced to me, and it only lasted 3 seasons, only seeing the field in 6 games. Now, while I don't like the black for black's sake, this list is about ugly jerseys, and these aren't ugly. C tier. Green Bay Packers, 1935 yellow-armed jersey. Now, Aaron Rodgers has never worn this jersey. It's a fan-created Photoshop job. But I think it is another example of an old-timer jersey that would not translate to the modern style of jersey. I mean, this looks like a practice penny you would wear in gym class because the modern jerseys aren't long-sleeve cotton sweaters like they were in 1935. The Packers are a team with a classic look that rolls out a lot of interesting throwbacks. And I'm not in love with a lot of them, but this gold sleeve jersey is my least favorite of the bunch. These jerseys definitely would not translate to the modern jersey, and they're not that appealing. A tier. Houston Texans, 2016 red jerseys, blue pants. The league's youngest team, the Texans don't really have a throwback per se, but there was one jersey that sticks out to me as their worst combo. According to the Gridiron Uniform Database, for one game in 2016, the Texans wore their red jersey with their navy blue pants. The one and only time they wore this in franchise history. It was also the last game for their last quarterback mistake. No, not the one that was bad off the field, the one that was bad on it, Brock Osweiler. He was yanked halfway through the game and the Texans mounted a furious comeback with Tom Savage, eventually beating the Jaguars 21-20. I'm working with nothing with the Texans. They're obviously D tier because I really have no choice. Indianapolis Colts, 1982 silver pants. For 5 seasons in the mid-1980s, the Baltimore/Indianapolis Colts wore silver pants. And I kinda talked about this with the Cowboys, but there are 4 teams during that period that wore blue jerseys with silver pants. The Cowboys, Lions, Seahawks, and Colts. The Colts having the weakest claim to that color combo makes it the strangest uniform in Colts history because it survived the move to Indianapolis. And when teams move, they usually try to form a new identity with a new city. If you're going to look like cheap Cowboys jerseys, you probably should be in the same tier as well. C tier. Jacksonville Jaguars, the all mustards. I tried to keep teams' color rush jerseys off this list because they were experimental and league mandated. But my God, these jerseys were bad even for color rushes. The all mustards were brutal. They were so bad that it distracted you from the two-tone gradient helmets that were the worst helmets in NFL history. But to me, the worst part of these jerseys was when the players would sweat. Certain panels of the jerseys would change to a darker color, while others wouldn't, making these jerseys even more of a mess. Enter the second horseman of the NFL fashion apocalypse. Kansas City Chiefs, 1960s Dallas Texans jerseys. This is the first and only jersey on this list that was also on the best throwback list because the Kansas City Chiefs uniform history is like watching them play in the playoffs. Painfully consistent. The Dallas Texans, the Chiefs' original team name, was the AFL's expansion into Texas. It just so happened to be at the same time as the NFL's Dallas Cowboys. Realizing they were the second team in Dallas, 3 seasons later they moved to Kansas City and their uniforms have essentially been the same ever since. Since the Chiefs really only have one throwback, their best is also their worst. D tier. Las Vegas Raiders. 1962 black jerseys, yellow numbers. Before the silver and black, before the autumn wind, the Raiders looked like the AFL's version of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Black helmets, black and gold color scheme, it looked like you took the worst version of an AI-generated Steelers uniform. And the full name on the back of the uniforms have always looked ridiculous. It's very weird seeing the Raiders in this color scheme. They're not the best, they're not the worst. B tier. Los Angeles Chargers, 1974 white jerseys, yellow pants. Like I said in the best throwback video, the Chargers have one of the best jersey rosters in NFL history. The baby blues were on the Mount Rushmore of that video. But in 1974, they threw all of that away. They ditched the baby blues for a regular blue and a darker blue helmet. Paired with the yellow lightning bolts just didn't have the same pop as the originals. They eventually refined these jerseys over the next 20 years to reach the Junior Seau and LT uniforms, but eventually got back to the sweet, sweet baby blues. To go from one of the best jerseys to this is too jarring. A tier. Los Angeles Rams, 1949 red and yellow. There is no weirder one-off jersey rebrand than that of the 1949 Los Angeles Rams. They took a solid color scheme in the blue and yellow and switched it to red and yellow. I tried to research why they made the change and why it only lasted one season, but the search did not yield any return. To be fair, I didn't search that hard because mediocrity isn't just the motto of this channel, it's a way of life. By far the weirdest part of this uniform is the realistic looking horns, if you can even call it that. Why are they ribbed? It seems like an unnecessary detail and it makes me uncomfortable. Nothing about this 1 year color switch makes any sense. B tier. Miami Dolphins, 2016 all oranges. Orange as an accent color is perfect for the Dolphins logo and uniform from every era of this team. But in 2016, the Dolphins rolled out these color rush jerseys that resemble more of an upside down dreamsicle ice cream bar. If you like orange, then you might like this jersey. But for the rational person, this ain't it. It's not surprising that the Dolphins changed their color rush jerseys to the all teal uniforms the very next year, and it was much easier on the eyes. That much orange should put it in A tier, but since it's a color rush, I'll put it in B. Minnesota Vikings, 2009 white uniforms. The Vikings had a very classic look for about 45 years, until they fell victim to the Reebok rebrand of the mid-2000s. So much piping and paneling and weird collaring. It was so bad that they brought back their best throwback the following season after the rebrand. It's honestly a shame that Adrian Peterson had to spend the majority of his career in these messy jerseys. Luckily, the Vikings cleaned it up with their current uniforms. Of all the mid-2000s rebrands, the Vikings got off pretty easy. B tier. New England Patriots, 1960s hat uniforms. Before Patriot Pat, there was Patriot Pat's hat. That's right, this is an American Revolution era hat. Not an abstract bat or a flying Colts logo. This is a bad logo. It seems like the least important feature when you think of the founding fathers or the Revolutionary War. A musket on the side of the helmet like a Florida State Spear logo would have been a much better logo choice. But you know, guns, can't do that. This is an example of the logo being so bad that it tanks the entire uniform. A tier. New Orleans Saints, 2002 gold uniforms. The Saints have been very consistent since the beginning, only slightly tweaking the shades of gold over the years. The one thing they haven't tried is a gold jersey, because as I've said before, a gold or yellow jersey has never looked good. Actually, wait, in 2002, the Saints wore a gold jersey for just one game. They just had to try it. I will note that the gold jerseys are very available for purchase online. This one jersey worn one time definitely left an impact with the fan base. Honorable mention to the newly released black helmets. Now, I'm not against them utilizing the 2-helmet color rule, but they only wear the black helmets with the white pants and white jerseys. They are missing a prime opportunity to do a true blackout game, and that is infuriating to me. If we're being fair, of all the gold and yellow jerseys I've seen, the Saints do it the most right. B tier. New York Giants, 2004 red jerseys. For a team nicknamed Big Blue, it seems unnecessary to have an alternate jersey that is all red. Like I said with the Dolphins, making an accent color the major color of a jersey rarely works, and this is no exception. But these Giants uniforms don't have the excuse of the Color Rush campaign. They lasted from 2003 to 2007. It's still not a good jersey, but in terms of accent colors, this isn't that bad. C tier. New York Jets, 1964 white Jets logo. These Jets uniforms are the most perplexing jerseys on this list. They only lasted one season, and they were the worst version of the New York Jets logo we've ever seen. But the weirdest part was the ridiculous tilt the logo had on the helmet. I might be dating myself with this reference, but do you remember those little helmets you would get out of vending machines at your local supermarket, where you would snap the little plastic face mask on and then put stickers of the logo onto the plastic helmet? I've seen children place those stickers better than the Jets did in 1964. These just don't make any sense, especially because they replaced the uniforms I picked for their best throwbacks. which only lasted one season as well. Make up your mind, Jets. I don't know why the sticker placement on the helmet bothers me as much as it does, but B tier. Philadelphia Eagles 1934 baby blue and yellows. What the fuck are these? I'm reading that these are the original uniforms of the Philadelphia Eagles, but they are all-time bad. The fact that the Eagles brought them back for one game in 2007 is questionable. I know it was the 75th anniversary of the team, but there had to be a better way to do it. Even during that one game in 2007, these jerseys looked so cheap and beneath NFL standards, it was ridiculous. First ballot for the Four Horsemen. This uniform might even be the worst uniform of all time. So congrats, Philly, you made the top 4 in both lists. Pittsburgh Steelers, the Bumblebees. This one might be the most controversial of this list because of how polarizing it is. People either love it or hate it. Unfortunately for this uniform, the only people who love it are located in the greater Pittsburgh area. The Steelers seem to lean into the Bumblebee uniforms because they initially used them for their 80th anniversary throwback, but then wore them for 5 straight seasons. They wouldn't let these jerseys die. And the fact that the people of Pittsburgh liked these jerseys makes me hate them even more. This will round out the 4 horsemen of the NFL fashion apocalypse. But an honorable mention to the 1994 throwback, which were similar to the Bumblebees, but with the crest of the city of Pittsburgh smack in the middle of it. You could switch these 2 Steelers jerseys and they would be in the same spot on this list. San Francisco 49ers, 1963 silver helmets. All right, we are going to create a new NFL team in San Francisco. We are going to call them the 49ers to commemorate the 1849 gold rush that was so vital to the formation of this part of the country. Okay, cool. So we're obviously going to make the helmets gold. Nope. Silver. Yep, that's right. For a while, the Niners rocked silver helmets that seemed like a huge missed opportunity. Like you're named after a gold rush. Why wouldn't you choose gold? Luckily, they found their classic look shortly after this. Honorable mention to the unnecessary All Blacks and these terrible redesigns that thankfully never saw the light of day. For obvious reasons. I don't think I'll ever understand the choice of silver helmet, but I don't need to. B tier. Seattle Seahawks. 2009 neon and navy. The Seahawks in the city of Seattle love this color. Meanwhile, the rest of us find it wildly obnoxious. Now, you might ask why I didn't pick the all neon uniforms, and admittedly, it is a lot of neon. But it goes all in on the neon, so you have to respect that. This 2009 version is a half-assed attempt. Mixed with that weird navy paneling of that mid-2000 fad, it's bad all around. I don't know what I hate more, the color or how lazily this jersey was done. A tier. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 2014 red uniforms. When teams try to merge the past with the present in jersey design, it usually ends in disaster. In 2015, the Bucs rolled out a rebrand where they took the creamsicle orange as an accent color, an obvious homage to the greatest throwback uniform of all time. Juxtaposed with a futuristic digital clock style numbering, it was an absolute nightmare. Needless to say, not a lot of W's were eaten while they wore these jerseys. It took another rebrand and a Super Bowl to quickly forget those 5 years of this bad uniform. You see that? You see that? That's an L, and this uniform ate a lot of them. A tier. Tennessee Titans, 1966 silver helmets. Just like the Niners, the Houston Oilers went through a silver helmet phase. But combined with their silver pants, they remind me of the Tin Man or Bender from Futurama. See? But compared to the other uniforms that the Oilers/Texans have put out, these are definitely the worst because of how forgettable they are. Since I put that Oilers logo on Bender, I will never not see that when I see this uniform. A tier. Washington Commanders. R logo. The Redskins' R logo has an interesting backstory. In 1969, the legendary head coach Vince Lombardi came to Washington to coach. He wanted to bring the winning tradition of the Green Bay Packers to the Washington Redskins. So much so that he changed the Redskins' spear logo helmets and put the R logo because the Packers had the famous G logo on theirs. This lacks originality, and it only lasted 2 years. This is an easy choice for worst throwback until the current black uniforms are about 30 years old. But until then, the R logo will be the worst in the Redskins' history, and they're not even that bad. C tier. And there you have it. Every NFL team's worst throwback jersey. Thank you so much for all the support, comments, likes, subscribing. Being a YouTube partner is so cool, and I love the community that's forming. And it's all thanks to you. Also, you can subscribe here or follow me everywhere on social media at Rob Elderton, like Jackson did. He DM'd me asking for a shout out in this video and to say Karl Malone is the GOAT, which is kind of alarming because I think this kid is 13. Let's hope Jackson isn't a girl.
You know Karl Malone?
Yes.
You know, he had sex with like a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
All right, thanks, and...
Playa!